something about the dedicated camera that you don't have to worry about notifications going off when you're shooting with your phone or let's just looking through the viewfinder too. It's just you can't beat that feeling.
Hey, welcome back to the Beginner Photography Podcast brought to you by CloudSpot, the all-in-one solution for photographers to deliver and sell your photos online. Hey, we have another Community Spotlight interview coming at you today. This is my opportunity to interview you, a member of the Beginner Photography Podcast community, to learn more about you, your struggles, and why you love this crazy thing that we do, photography. Now, today I am chatting with Michael Collins from the group. He's very new to photography, but just by looking at his photos, I wouldn't have guessed as such. So we talked today about the process and struggles of learning photography while photographing wildlife, which is already difficult enough, even for the pros. There is some great insight here that I know you are going to love. And if you stick around towards the end of the episode, I end up sharing a few editing tips with Michael that hopefully you can use and try out for yourself. And remember, if you want to be a part of the friendliest place on the internet for photographers to share photos, ask questions, and grow their skills, well, come join us in the Beginner Photography Podcast community by heading over to beginnerphotopod.com/group. That link will take you right there. So with that, let's go ahead and dive on into this interview with Michael Collins. Michael, I just want to know, who are you and what do you do?
Michael Collins and father of four. That's pretty much me.
Nice and easy. I love it. Tell me how you got started in photography, because you're relatively new, right?
Oh yeah, I've been 5 months, about November 2022 actually. I got my son was a 15-year-old, made an interest in photography, so I picked up a DSLR for him, a little Canon 2000D, and I got to playing with that, and I was playing around with it. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. So I started, whittling it down to, okay, what would I want if I wanted a camera? So whittled that down, and I got myself a Canon SL3, and now we're both going out and taking pictures and a blast learning with each other.
That is awesome. What was it about when you grabbed that T7 and started shooting for yourself? What was it that made you think like, wow, this is really cool?
Something about the dedicated camera that you don't have to worry about notifications going off when you're shooting with your phone or let's just looking through the viewfinder too. It's just you can't beat that feeling.
Had you shot earlier, like in your younger years while you were a child or anything like that? Or you're brand new to photography?
Oh, I had those little point and shoots and those little wind up film cameras,
Mm-hmm.
a couple Polaroids growing up, but never really an interest in it back then. Those little Sony like CyberShot,
Sure.
little 4 times zoom Sony CyberShot. I actually used that for a while with my son, his 2000D. Walked around doing like street photography with him with that, like comparing images. Like I can't even see my screen, but I think it looks cool.
So when it came time to buy your own camera, I guess, like, what was your intention? Is it just to take better photos along with your son? Like, what was it that the Sony wasn't doing for you?
Oh, reach. I wanted better reach. Wanted to get better image quality for sure, and shutter speed. Honestly, I wanted to like freeze images in their place. Fast moving objects and stuff. That little Sony Cyber Shot, you'd take a picture and something would move and it would just be streaked across, which it's a cool look if you're doing it intentionally. But I really wanted to just freeze like cars driving by and birds flying or like a leaf falling from a tree or something, just like catch that just as it's falling. That's so cool.
Yeah. You mentioned shutter speed there. Tell me where you're at as far as learning the tool of photography. Because am I right to assume that you're not just shooting in automatic mode, but you're taking more control of your camera?
Oh, I actually started right out the gate in manual because
Yeah.
you know you you hear everybody talking when I was doing my research. You hear everybody talking about, oh, you got to shoot in manual. We all shoot in manual. You get creative with it and stuff. So I'm like, right out the gate. I'm gonna figure this thing out, right? So all that information out there, searching YouTube, looking up videos, and that's actually how I stumbled across your podcast and the Facebook community was just research and finding things out. And the exposure triangle is what I kept coming across. So I was like, okay, cool. So, oh man, that was definitely an experience getting all the settings right and dialing it in. Like Click, click. That doesn't work. Get a bright white screen. Like, oh crap, what I
Yeah, it's
do?
way too much light. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
so
I'm learning like slow it down, dial it down.
so how do you fix
A
that?
lot of it's yeah, like a lot of it's backwards. So I was like dropping the shutter speed, raising my ISO, and ooh, that didn't work out either. So so I just found a nice medium ground in there. I got the hang of the exposure triangle and found out about TV mode and AV mode. I'm like, no way.
Yeah, this sounds much
So
easier. Yeah, than going full
yeah,
manual right
yeah,
away.
yeah, all right. Full manuals. I can like full manual was really cool. I did started off like astrophotography.
Mm,
Really enjoyed doing that on my phone. And that was so cool getting those shots on my phone alone. I got the S21 Ultra. So that took some phenomenal pictures. Started doing it with my camera, figuring that out because pro mode and settings are fairly similar, but I have way more control with my DSLR than I would my camera because like my mind was blown. Like I don't have all these settings on my phone.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, of course, of course. How long would you say that it took you from finding out about manual mode and what it was to feeling somewhat confident that when you would go out and shoot, that it wouldn't just be pure white or pure black?
Oh, I'd say that took me maybe a solid month shooting every day, kind of dialing everything in and playing with it to understand like, okay, this does this. Okay, cool. Oh, I just got my like shutter speed was one of my biggest things because I wanted to always like keep it low, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to keep the shutter speed a little low, and I didn't understand like how fast I could go because it got real dark. And I was like, I don't know how to compensate for that yet. And I was kind of nervous to adjust everything else. But a few people online, this other group I was in, actually made a cool story. Go off track, but I was shooting Cooper's hawk came flying by in my neighborhood. I was actually coming home, and the Cooper's hawk flies up in a tree, and I'm like so excited. Dialed all my settings in like real fast. I'm sporadic. I'm okay. Shot it a few times. It was like really bright background, overcast day, and the front of the hawk was just dark. And I'm like, God. But I shared the image anyway. So nervous to do that, but I shared it anyway. This guy, real friendly guy on a different group I was in, told me about exposure compensation, and that is where my mind was blown again. I was like, "Whoa, I can do that!" So very next day, I practiced with this little Thanos figure I got. I put him up on my deck. And, okay, I got low. I was shooting up at the thing, and I was like trying that exposure compensation, dialed in my settings. Like subject was standing still, so my shutter speed didn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So my aperture, I was cranking it right. I had the aperture like f11, I think,
Yeah.
and he would remember his comment. He's like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "I mean, jury's out, bud." So I shared that with my settings, and he actually helped me through it. And he shared very useful little graph that showed me my specific lens versus all the settings and what it does, what the ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, that is so useful. So shooting that little Thanos figure, man, I dialed it in. Thanos was really nice and bright out front. Background was still kind of crappy because it was an overcast day, but I left it there and I kept my camera in the car because at the time, I had memory in, taking the SD card out for whatever reason, memory card. Didn't even have my lens on, but scrambled to get that to shoot the hawk the first time. But the very next day, I saw the same hawk in a different tree. Like, I get out of my car, I leave my door wide open of my car. It's just sitting there in the road,
You're like, this is my
door's
moment.
wide open. Yeah, I'm creeping up, doing the zigzag motion so I don't startle it, shooting it, checking, shooting it, checking. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. One of my best shots. I was 2 months in,
Mm-hmm.
2.5 months in, and got that Cooper's Hawk. And man, incredible moment when I got that clear shot. The front was, you know, light was great.
Yeah, that always feels good. I remember some of the first photos that I got that when shooting manual, where you think to yourself like, "Hey, wait a second, this isn't half bad. Maybe I could actually do something with this. This is a really exciting moment. Like I'm in full control of this camera." But you said earlier when you had started, you wanted to keep your shutter speed low. but you didn't want to really adjust your other settings, or you said that you were nervous to adjust everything else. Why were you nervous to adjust your other settings?
ISO makes me nervous.
Why?
'Cause you get all that noise in the background. You can see it's kind of like not real pixely, but more like grainy maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just you can see it in the background and around your subject. And I struggled with the ISO for a while. The aperture, I think I was grasping because I want to keep the aperture at like 5.6 or like the low end of my lens. The 5.6 to 7 was the sweet spot for that 55 to 250
Mm.
shooting like wildlife.
So you just wanted to stay within that range, and then all of your other settings you wanted to make so that you could then capture a photo. So you wanted to stick within the aperture range. You wanted to keep your ISO low. So then at that point, you're just riding the shutter speed dial to figure out how to get a usable photo. Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I see.
And then I discovered auto ISO,
Ah, okay. So
and I was like, I can set that. Uh,
are you using that quite a bit today?
Auto ISO.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I pretty much stay in auto ISO. I have it set to like a maximum of 1600 right now, and then I'll stay in TV mode if I'm doing birding. I'm into now, and the camera does a pretty good job at and TV mode at deciding what my aperture should be and selecting the ISO
Mm-hmm.
that in the range that I selected for it. And then all I got to do is crank that shutter back and forth and doing pretty well.
I see.
But then
So
I still have the option to like flick it back to manual if I decide.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And especially use exposure compensation. That always helps for sure. Um,
Very, very helpful. Yeah.
so when you're out shooting, you're mostly shooting wildlife, right? You go out and you photograph wildlife. What have been the challenges in that? And I guess let me start before that. Did you have an interest in wildlife before getting the camera and photographing it?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I get birds out my window, out my kitchen window, and I'm always, really always out in the woods. Son and I like taking hikes and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So having cameras on us all the time, we can actually take pictures of what we see and share with family and friends. And hey, look what we saw. We're this close to these deer or wild turkeys out in the woods.
Gotcha.
Totally share our experiences.
Yeah, it is a fun way to. That's one thing that I love about photography is that it's a shared experience. It can be when you go out and shoot with somebody else, and I always find it so interesting to see because if you're both seeing the same thing, you can both walk away with like very different photos. Do you find that with you and your son, or do you guys keep it pretty similar in
Yeah.
your visual styles?
Well, we're pretty different in our visual styles. I love the photos my son takes, man. Like his perspectives. Like he loves moss.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He'll photograph moss and like things I didn't even see, like a spilled bucket. There was a spilled bucket with like some rocks in it, and he just kicked up dirt inside, and there's like grass around it. He got this so cool shot of that. It was underneath the deck we were on. Like I wouldn't even have gone. He's down there and shoots it. It's like, it's so cool.
That is awesome. When you guys are shooting together, do you find that you guys will like? Is there any sort of like friendly competition or anything, or is it purely just like let's just see what we get?
Just pure like, let's see what you get, let's see what I get, and
Mm.
different perspectives. Like, what did you see that I missed, and what did I see that you may have missed? Like,
Yeah.
we went out one time and we found it out Warren Dunes. We're just shooting landscapes, and trying to get wildlife. It was kind of a gloomy day, nothing was really happening, so we ended up at a little creek, and just the way the water was running in the creek, and there's that tube like went over a bridge. We're running there. He I am shooting over some rocks. I'm watching the water come over the rocks, and I'm shooting those, freezing it in place, and I'm kind of doing a long exposure, trying things out. And I look back, and he is in that tube, shooting towards me. I see one of the pictures of me sitting there doing my pictures. He just got such a cool shot of the water running off. It's just so crisp, and I would have never thought to go in that tube. He ended up cutting his hand open on that on that
Jeez.
metal.
It's worth a
Oh
shot. Yeah, whatever it takes to
yeah,
get the shot. Yeah, it's 100% worth it.
the water shots he got was so pristine.
Do you think that you would be as into photography as you are if you didn't have your son to shoot with?
Don't think I would have picked up a camera. No.
Well, let's assume that you did. Or okay, do you find that when you and your son go out to shoot, obviously you bring the camera, but say he can't, is at school or something like that, do you still feel like the drive or the motivation to go out and shoot just for yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll be at school. My camera pretty much comes with me everywhere.
Oh, okay,
Like
okay.
I'll charge my batteries at night and then just keep it in the car because I'll see vultures and things flying everywhere and
So when you
just
say you take your camera with you everywhere, it's still with the intention of shooting wildlife or just all sorts of life?
yeah, mostly wildlife. If I see something else that catches my eye, then of course it's with me. But
Gotcha.
like today on lunch, I went out to Warren Dunes and just kind of chilled out there, ate my lunch, and I walked down to the beach, shot some seagulls flying over the lake, shot a landscape. I can go down to the nuclear plants right down the road from right down the lake, I guess. Still working on that composition, positioning it.
Tell me
Like
about that. What's been the trouble?
landscapes have been one on what to put in the image and not to have it too cluttered, but have something interesting to shoot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I'll want to have like a single tree in the middle, but then I shoot it, and then I look at it, and I can't even see the tree really.
Why? Because
you know,
is it because the background is so busy?
yeah, yeah. Like everything's still pretty dead right now. Nothing's
Oh, I see.
bloom,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I got these little stick trees, and then you got the sand in the background
Yep. Yeah.
from the dunes I'm shooting at, and then the sand just takes over. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's not a very good one.
It didn't turn out well. Now you
Yeah.
know next time that doesn't work. So you at least you learned something, right? Yeah, it's
Whole
funny.
other.
I love going out as well, whether it's a state park or something. And I know that I've been in situations where it's like there's this beautiful tree that's just like in the middle of this opening, and you're like, that is so beautiful. Like, I want to capture this. But there's something lost in just having the not having the stereoscopic vision like we have with our eyes, right? With just two eyes, but just the one lens. And there's no depth perception when you only have just a single lens, that it just all is so flat together and stands, it just all blends in. And you think to yourself, you're like, how did it look so good in front of me? But this photo is like, I'm just going to delete it. Like, it's not even worth like saving for anything. So that's going to be something that you got to figure out how to, what tricks you can come up with to make these things interesting and see them like you see them in your head. So good luck with that, because that's, like I said, that's going to be an ongoing thing forever. When it comes to photographing wildlife, I know, having talked to a few people, that like one of the hardest things is, like, what am I trying to say here? Not finding them, but I guess maybe going out with intention to find, say, a hawk or something, and then there's nothing out there. Do you find yourself in that situation, or is it more, I'm just gonna go out and shoot and whatever's there, like that's my subject today?
Well, that for sure is a goal. I've been going out with just I see something, and then you don't, and it's kind of discouraging because I'm shooting all these common birds. I'm like, oh, I just want to see something cool, and then I'll get an eagle, a bald eagle. I'm like, oh, it dropped me to my knees. A lot of it is learning the animals and learning their habitats, learning their characteristics and where they're going to be at what time,
Mm-hmm.
and learning like where they are in my area for sure. There's a few birding groups that are local to me that I learned a lot from. They have a list of places where they most commonly see. So I've been trying to hit those areas more in the morning time, like sunrise and sunset, the hour before, or sorry, the hour after sunrise and the hour before sunset. And I've only really had time to go out during the sunset or sunrise and in the morning time. And there's the park, a Glean Park, just down the road from me. It's got this really tall lookout. Went out one morning, Saturday morning, went out there with the intention, okay, I'm gonna get a big bird, right? Because I know there's like sandhill cranes and great blue herrings out there. Man, I get out there. Oh, it's like 32 degrees. I am shivering. I dressed for the occasion, but man, it's cold. It's really crisp out on that balcony, the boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
It's really high up. I'm sitting out there and a few ducks fly by and I'm cool, 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 got it. And I look far left and I see a white head, black body. I'm like, no, no way. Zoom in on it. Yep, bald eagle sitting just perched way too far away to even get a shot.
Oh.
and pan right, another bald eagle way, way too far away. But the learning experience there, I know there's bald eagles.
Right. Yeah.
My favorite bird. Great. So that's notate that. I'm gonna frequent that area. And then there's another area out in another town away, an abandoned golf course that just by chance my son and I went out. He's looking for this bird that he keeps hearing. So we're a lot of it's identifying the the sounds of the birds
Mhm.
and where they're located. And this bird, he kept hearing and hearing and hearing. Then some morning, so we hear the morning dove. We're after that, but then I see off corner of my eye, black and white, just in the sky, streaked it. I'm like, or you look, oh no way, and that was the bald eagle. So I'm like, I'm out, shoot that way, and check my settings. Man, that was my moment.
Are
And I
the
left my son behind. I got so excited.
are these the photos that you posted in the group the other day of the bald eagle?
Yeah, yeah, that was
Okay.
the second occurrence of that nest.
Hmm.
So the first one, oh man, was finding out that there are bald eagles at that location, and I had no intention of shooting my favorite bird out there. And oh man, it dropped me to my knees. I was in tears, just firing away. I hope I got something.
Yeah.
I know my settings are good, but banger, banger. Got the most incredible shot of it banking. But talked to a neighbor lady out there. She said the nest has been out there for 8 years.
Wow. She's known about it and she just hasn't told you about it.
Yeah,
That's a terrible
yeah.
neighbor.
Well,
I want to know,
yeah,
after having taken those photos, that always feels like such a great moment. You're like, oh my gosh, I finally got it. I love this animal. It's such a cool photo. That's wonderful. The next step is, how do you make that photo better? So, like, are you actively planning on going back out in different conditions or anything like that to try to get a new and, I guess, for lack of a better term, a better shot?
absolutely. I started shooting everything in these overcast, just gloomy kind of days. And I know how to shoot in these overcast, scattered light conditions now, but I want those bright, sunshiny days where I don't have to like overcompensate my exposure, right? But the bright springtime green leaves with the eagle perched in a tree, or like have the background of my eagle, oh right, that's the shot.
Ah, I see.
That's the shot I'm after next.
Now, you mentioned earlier you go out either sunrise or sunset. Is that just for light, like because it looks more interesting, or is it something to do with animal activity?
Yeah, that's well, the lighting, like golden hour, right? The lighting and the hour after is where birds are the most active. Like
Mm,
it's when they get up, like feeding time and then dinner time for them, right? They're
I,
trying to
I had
do
no
the hustle and
idea.
bustle like we do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're trying to
wow.
get their young and get fed and get to bed, I guess.
Yeah. Wrap up the day. So, for you, when it comes to wildlife, what elements do you look for? Is it action, or is it just more documentation of the animal? What do you look for when you're photographing birds?
Bit of both. Started just wanting those action shots. I wanted to freeze those wings in place.
Hmm.
That was a struggle for a minute, but the shutter speed I talked about, like figure out how fast the shutter speed I had to get to freeze those wings in place. Nailed it. I can capture that now. And then I have stumbled across an app called Merlin that
Merlin.
can just
Okay. Tell me about
yeah,
this.
I can photo ID a bird, take a picture and load it up into Merlin, and it'll tell me, hey, is this your bird?
What?
Location that you took it, and then is this your bird? Yeah, yeah, that sounds like it. And then I can tag it and then document all my sightings. I have identified. I think I'm up to 36 species of birds now.
No way. That is so cool. Is there a list of all the birds in Michigan? Like, are you on a mission to photograph them all?
But yeah, for sure. There's a discover there's like 300 and I'm gonna butcher this or over 350 species.
All right. So you're like 10% of the
Don't
way.
quote me on that one,
Yeah.
but
That
there's a
is
lot of
awesome.
species of birds, and I'm on a mission to identify them all.
I like it. I like it. I always find that having some sort of project or mission like that, sometimes after you've been doing it for a while, it kind of gets. I think with anything, after you do something for a while, it can lose a little bit of its luster. But every once in a while, you'll come up with a project or an idea, and you'll just get so excited to work on it. And I would imagine 300, 300 some odd different species of animals that you want to capture. It's going to keep you busy for a while and keep that drive going. And definitely, what I think is so great about that is that I would be willing to bet that desire to capture all those birds is going to just it's going to be so cool to see your progress in photography from like some of those first photos that you took to like when you capture say 300 number 360 or whatever. Just to see your growth in photography is going to be so awesome. So I want to challenge you to, whenever you find a new bird, post it in the community because I want to keep track, and we're going to do this together, and we're going to have a celebration when you hit 360 or whatever it is, because that is such a cool idea.
Sounds cool.
So cool.
Hey,
Do you already have a bird picked out that like you want to be the last bird?
I already got my bird. The bald eagle was mine. Yeah.
That's the next step. You got to figure out what that bird is going to be. What's the state bird of Michigan? Do you know?
That's the robin.
Oh, have you already photographed the robin?
Yeah,
Dang
photographed
it.
tons of robins.
All
Uh,
right. Well,
like the guy I followed, the inspirational photographer Simon Dontremont said on one of his latest videos, like get an uncommon picture of your common birds when you're at a loss for what to shoot, right? You're out there just shooting all these. It gets kind of daunting, right? And then take a picture of an uncommon something the bird's doing that's uncommon, like an uncommon photograph of the common bird.
mm-hmm.
And immediately when he said that, it popped in my head, oh, that dang robin. So that's one of my missions is get an uncommon photo of all these robin pictures I have.
What do you
But
think that's going to
I
be?
know where to find these.
Uh,
Oh, hopefully there's like playful. Hopefully it's something playful where it's like playing with another robin, flying in a weird manner, or maybe fluffing itself up. I like the wing flap when they're dusting themselves off.
yeah.
Wing flaps. I like those shots. I've gotten a lot of geese like that. Maybe I can get a robin like spread its wings all wide open. Maybe freeze them in place. That'd be
Yeah.
cool. I haven't seen one of those.
That would be cool. Yeah. It might be interesting to, I'm sure that all birds have some sort of similar patterns to try to capture like similar photos of every type of bird, like the same sort of framing of a bird in flight, as a robin as you did with that bald eagle. And then at the end of it, try to like compile all these photos of birds together. Just so many ideas for projects. This is so cool.
Cool.
Like I might
Well,
get out there and start birding because this sounds like
I'd
it's a
love to
never
see it.
ending thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very cool.
I'd love to see what you get.
Oh man, it'd be terrible. Everything would be out of focus. How do you deal with that? Like, because if you just have like a completely empty background, like these bald eagle photos, we'll keep going with those, and your photos are in the group, so anybody can see them. The background, overcast, whatever it was, there's nothing behind it. How did your camera do as far as autofocus?
Oh, the autofocus is pretty good. You try to stay with maybe with my metering, shoot with spot metering or center weighted.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that center weighted actually does me more justice than like the spot metering as far as the exposure of the subject.
Sure.
The focus, try to keep it dead center,
Mm,
right? Dead center. That way I can just track it dead center. And a lot of times I have to focus way, then zoom in to my subject, and then that I have a better opportunity to snap some pictures while I'm zooming. That doesn't always work.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I would
Like
imagine.
sometimes you'll catch the motion of the zoom in there, and then it creates this depth, this travel. Like cool shot, but that's not some stuff you like put out there
No,
and
I
share
like
that.
it. In fact, I want to see those. I want
But
to see some
maybe,
of those photos. Yeah, I want to see some of those because
maybe.
I always find that so interesting. I love when people do that for stuff like, I don't know, Christmas lights and stuff. It's a slow shutter, so they'll zoom in and out, and it just creates these trails and this motion that is not what you would expect. And therefore, I find it interesting. And I would imagine with very active birds, that could add something to the shot. I don't know. I don't know. You got to try it
Usually
out.
just trash those, but hey,
Yeah,
next time I'll get one and I'll share it.
I
Hey,
like it. I'm excited for that.
maybe somebody else will get some inspiration on that one. Hey, you never know.
I want to know a little bit more about, you said that you found the podcast through just trying to learn about photography, but then at some point You came into the group less than, I believe, just over a month ago. And like since then, you've been crazy active, posting tons of photos, lots of variety, commenting on people's posts, sharing insight from when you go out and shoot. Is that typically who you are as a person? Because it seems like you got in and you're like, this is my place. I feel safe here. I'm going to start posting tons of photos. When earlier you said that it was very scary to post that first photo.
Oh man, yeah, it's frightening. Yes. The some of the best things in life are just beyond our fear, right?
Mm,
So I gotta take that first step and just get yourself out there, cross your fingers, and let's see what happens. But everybody was so friendly, welcoming. Yeah, I felt right at home, sharing everything, and but yeah, that is pretty much my personality. When you meet me in person, you won't get me to shut up. I will talk your ear off if you let me, but I get kind of sporadic and off topic.
That's all right. That's why I love podcasts, is that you're allowed to do that. You can do that. Yeah. Are you a part of any other photography groups online?
Oh yeah, I got too many others.
Too many others. Wow.
There's a Michigan birding group I'm in that, oh man, some of these shots these people take is incredible. Oh, another exciting shot that I am after is one of the bird and prey that is capturing their food, capturing their meal, something in the talon or something coming back to the tree with their food. Oh, that would be phenomenal. I see people with those pictures all the time, and I'm like, man, so good,
Right?
so crisp.
I always
Oh,
think
yeah.
of like just thinking about bald eagles, just imagining the fish in the talons as they're flying away, and how cool that would be to photograph something like that. So that is, you got to get that as well. I get that would be an uncommon thing, right, for a bird, or at least to see. Maybe it is a common thing for a bird.
Yeah,
Well, I guess if a bird is big enough to get a fish, that would be pretty uncommon. Maybe I'm wrong there. I don't know enough about birds.
yeah, they gotta eat. So I'm
Right. But I guess I'm
sure they
thinking of
catch
like,
fish daily. But
chickadees and stuff. Like they're not catching fish. They're probably just getting like
yeah, no,
worms.
they're going after worms or nuts or
Okay.
berries or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So then there you go.
yeah.
There's your uncommon thing, is to get, uh, okay, here it is. Here's your challenge. Here's your lifelong challenge, is to get one bald eagle with two fish, one in each talon.
Oh man,
That would be, I wonder if birds do that, or if that's extremely common, or if that's ever happened. But you got to find out.
would
And I
think
feel
that would
like,
be uncommon.
yeah, I would think that that would be uncommon for two fish to be close enough together, or for a bird to be like, no, this is a great spot. I'm going to keep coming back here. And before I take this fish back to the nest, that'd be wild to see.
Right? That
Wild.
would be wild. That would be the uncommon shot.
Yeah.
It would be an amazing experience though, just to be there capturing that moment. Oh man,
Yeah.
frozen, frozen in time.
I think of like bears as well, like when they're in a stream and then the fish is like,
Mhm.
jumping, like how cool that would be to grab a shot like that. And to be so close to a bear, like terrifying. But yeah, I couldn't imagine. I would love, like, if anybody's listening and is wondering what to get me for my birthday, it is a photo expedition trip to Kodiak, Alaska, just to photograph bears. I think that would be, one, the coolest, but also two, the scariest thing I could ever imagine in my life. And as you just said, what was it? It was sometimes it's just beyond fear. What was the quote that you had?
Some of the best things in life are just beyond your fear.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah,
I got to do it. Okay, I'm writing it down.
true.
I'm gonna look into it more seriously now. Got to go to Kodiak, Alaska. Got to get that bear shot. Got to get that bear shot. What else was I gonna ask? Oh,
Yeah.
right. So when it comes to these Facebook groups, you mentioned the Michigan birding group, and you said that you look at some of these photos and you're like, man, these are absolutely incredible. When you look at those photos, does that inspire you to be better, or does it feel more discouraging inside?
No, it's absolutely inspiring.
Hmm.
Because I can look at it and be like, oh man, they've been sitting up there for however long just to wait for that moment. All right, I need more patience. I need more patience because I will get trigger happy. Get out there and I'll just start shooting everything. Oh, and a lot of them go to specific locations. There's want to go. I cannot remember the name. I think it's
Okay.
Kensington Park. It's like 4 hours from me. But that would be so worth the trip. Go up there. It's a wildlife preserve or park. Just acres upon acres of just wildlife.
And you could bring the
See why
camera
I can
and
see
just
why they
hang
get those
out.
shots.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, wow.
Just take my hammock, hang out somewhere with my hammock, and just let something pass me by, and
In the hammock.
just
That is not what I was expecting you to say. Some sort of blind or something, but the hammock, that sounds much more fun, much more comfortable too. I like that.
roll myself up like a cocoon in my hammock and just point my lens out. It there's my blind.
Yeah, that's funny. Going back to the group thing, I want to know, having been very recent in your photography journey, is there anything in the group that you learned or picked up that you thought, man, this is helpful, or I wish that I learned this earlier?
Really, the exposure compensation that I could go both ways with it. Like underexposing as well. That one kind of scared me. The underexposed, but then I get those really dark images, and I don't know how to process that. And still a work in progress with Lightroom with me.
Why so? Is it just trying to figure out what all the sliders do?
And how to select different portions and use the gradients and the select subject. It'll do good 90% of the time.
Oh, yeah, because you're photographing like animals. Yeah, I never thought about that. It does
Yeah,
a pretty good
sometimes
job.
it'll do the sticks that it's sitting
Uh,
on at the same time and woodland.
that's
And
still pretty
I try to
impressive.
adjust and it gets kind of weird. So
Well,
you
if it
gotta
makes you
really,
feel any better, like 18 months ago, that wasn't even a thing, and you'd have to use the paintbrush to
oh
just
no
paint
way.
in, yeah, your subject. So that's a relatively new feature that has, man,
Wow.
revolutionized the way that I edit. Because sometimes it's great to have your subject properly exposed, which is what you go for in camera, but having the background a little bit underexposed to kind of bring your attention to the subject. Sometimes you can't always control that in camera, depending on whatever the background is.
No,
So just being able to select your subject, and then I click invert mask, and then I just bring down the exposure half a stop or so. And I always find that that just brings a lot more punch to an edit because, again, it just brings your attention to the subject. So try that out next time. But yeah,
I will have to try that. Thank you.
and with the masking, I don't know if you tried this as well, but sometimes, especially with brides and whatnot, it'll get, if I'm photographing them like in just out in nature, I guess, and the trees look as they do outside today. Sometimes it'll think that the sticks of the trees are like the bride's hair or something like that, um,
Yeah.
which is always so frustrating. So you can adjust a mask, you can edit a mask as well, and then so you would click select subject, and then let's say that it picks branches and stuff, and then you can, I believe, right click on the mask and then click edit mask, and then it'll give you an option like, well, what do you want to edit? Do you want to use like a gradient or a brush? And then I use the brush to, which is, I use it as an eraser to erase the sticks that it chose with the subject, and then it just gives you a better focus on, or better not clarity. Why am I at a loss of words? But like it just gives you better masking, I guess, of just your subject, so that you can edit it better. So lots of tools
I
to
haven't
try
messed with
out in
the
Lightroom. Yeah, it's a
yeah, I
ton of
haven't messed
fun.
with the brushes yet at all because I'm like, what does that even do?
Oh
So
man,
I'm gonna have to take some older photos and experiment.
yeah, for sure. Like, let me see if I can. So I'm looking at some of the photos that you posted here within the group, and yeah, I mean, I see photos that you've posted with birds on branches and stuff, or this one of like looks like geese and ducks landing in the water. There's this one photo of a duck, looks like it's landing, and it's bringing its wings, it's like flapping and whatnot, and right behind it is just like the bank of the water, and I'd say that the colors like pretty closely match the duck. I would imagine if you used the select subject on that photo, it would also choose, it would either say, I'm sorry, we can't find a subject, or it would select a lot of the outer bank of that shot, which is right behind the duck. I would say try it on that shot and then click the edit mask button and then try to use the brush as an eraser to just erase the bank just so that it's the duck there. I don't know. Give it a shot. Let me know if that works or not.
Oh, I
But
know exactly the photo you're talking about too. Yeah.
oh, good, 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 good. Yeah, I find
Yeah.
that once you figure out kind of those tweaks that you can make to the tools, it makes it a whole lot easier to achieve the edits that you're looking for. And it has always helped me to know the tool better in editing, helps me shoot better as well, because now I know what I can get away with and what I can't get away with when I'm actually shooting. So, because there are some things that you just can't get away with. Like I said, like if somebody's in front of, or in your case, you're photographing a bird, you can't control how bright the sky is or how dark the sky is. So if you know that you can just mask the animal and then you can change the brightness and even the color of the background, yeah, that just helps when you're out shooting. So I hope that was helpful. I
Oh,
hope you
yeah.
found that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wrote some of that down. Yeah.
Oh, cool,
I'm gonna
cool,
go.
cool.
I'm gonna go try that.
Well, after you listen back to this podcast, hopefully it refreshes your memory and you'll be able to get in there. That would be great.
I'll be taking more notes.
Uh, we only got a few last minutes here, but I want to know: is there a standout episode of the podcast that you've listened to?
I think the one of the latest ones I listened to, who's a wildlife photographer, had the giraffe photo.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Harry Skeggs.
Yes, yeah.
Have you checked out his work? Any of his photos?
Oh yeah, right in the podcast. I went and followed him on Instagram.
Oh, really? Oh, how cool! How cool!
Like, wow, how cool shots of his black and white. Oh man.
I know.
Oh, how he says a good. You can what do you say? A good. You can tell a good photo if you turn it black and white, and it's still a good photo,
Mm-hmm.
and it still works. I'm
Is
like,
that your
wow,
new
man,
litmus
I would
test?
turn some of mine black and white. Like, ooh, that.
Well, again, within black and white, you can still edit the image. It's not like it's black and white and
Yeah,
it's done. So, yeah, no,
yeah.
I get it. That is good. That was a really good episode. And he is just such an interesting guy. And to be able to do what he does is just so cool to be able to talk to him. It was enjoyable. I'm glad that you found that one helpful. I know that listeners can find you in the group, right? You're posting quite often. Outside of that, is there anywhere else where we can see some of your photos?
You can find me on Instagram, Michael LC Photography. I post all my pictures.
Michael, before I let you go, I just wanted to say that a community is only as good as its weakest member. And for you to come in and not only take such a interest in photography, but to share your journey publicly, right, in the group, and ask questions, show that you're curious, but also have conversations with others is really what a community is all about. So I just wanted to say thank you for being a part of the community and just being as active as you are, because it's not only helping you, I'm sure, on your journey, but it's helping others as well. So thank you. Remember, this Community Spotlight series is all about you and the supportive beginner photography podcast community. So if you would like to be a part of the supportive group, we would love to have you. You can find the direct link to the group in the show notes of this episode or by heading over to beginnerphotopod.com/group. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review in iTunes. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.